Okay, to start making our rainbow trout, we're going to reference our photo that you can download for free off of my website. Or if you're a patron, this comes free with the tutorial. And I want my trout to be about 10 inches long because I'm going to be putting this onto a quarter sheet cake. So that will be almost the edges of the quarter sheet. Obviously, if you wanted to make this like a half sheet, then you could make, you know, the trout bigger. But this is for the size that I want it to be. So I'm going to build my trout out of Rice Krispie treats and 50-50 mixture. So first I need to melt some marshmallows. This is the marshmallows I prefer. I get these at Winco, but you can use, you know, whatever marshmallows you feel comfortable with when you're making Rice Krispie treats. I'm going to do probably about half the bag. And then I'm going to melt this in the microwave for 1 minute, and then I'm going to mix it, and then I'm going to do it for another probably 45 seconds until it's just really melty. Alright, so we've got our marshmallows nice and melted here. I'm going to add some rice cereal treats to it, no butter. And the reason we leave out the butter is because the butter just makes them soft, and for the purpose of sculpting, we actually don't want them to be very soft. We want them to firm up pretty well. The ratio is not super exact, obviously. You just want it to be so that they're, you know, pretty well stuck together. No loose pieces of marshmallow in there. Like I've got kind of like a wet glob right there. Okay, so this is really, really warm right now. And if we tried to sculpt this, it would just fall apart. So what we're going to do is let this set up for 5 minutes until you can handle it without it breaking apart. And while that's setting, I'm just going to prep a piece of parchment paper to build our fish on top of. And if you had wax paper, you could use wax paper. If you don't have any paper at all, you can just put some shortening on top of the surface of your table, and that just keeps everything from sticking, because marshmallows are very sticky. And we can actually put our fish underneath our wax paper, and that just kind of helps us visualize how big we need to make the actual fish body. And it's not going to be very big. I mean, this is just a little small fish. You could make this out of solid modeling chocolate or 50-50 if you wanted to, but I don't want to have that much bulk, so I'm basically going to make the body out of a little bit of rice cereal treats. And then we're going to cover it all in our 50-50 mixture, add our texture, and paint it and all that good stuff. Alright, so when your Rice Krispie treats are set up enough that they stick together like this, and start using them. And just kind of use your fish here as a guide. I'm going to get everything except for the fins. Try and smooth out as many of the lumps as possible. Get the head in there too. I'm not going to do the bottom part of the mouth, just kind of like the top. Okay. Looks like I'm missing sort of the bottom part of this belly here. I'm just going to add in a little bit more. Right down here at the bottom. Because I want his shape to be as realistic as possible. So that part's done. All right, so we're going to color our fondant. I've got my white LMF here, and I warmed it up in the microwave for about 40 seconds to get it warm again. And I'm gonna knead this until it's nice and stretchy. Something you do every time you use your LMF fondant. Because right now it's just, you know, it'll just break. So we want to knead this to get it back to its former glory. And I'm actually going to color this taupe color. This is going to be the base of our cutting board. So to get taupe, it's actually kind of this brownish gray color. So I'm going to start not with brown, but with ivory. Good amount of ivory in there, about a teaspoon. Start working that in. And ivory, I prefer to use ivory over brown because ivory has a lot of yellow in it, which will give the color a lot of realistic depth. Got our ivory mostly worked in, and now I'm going to add a touch of super black, maybe 1/4 teaspoon. And super black has green undertones, so the green and the yellow kind of work together to make taupe, which is a greenish gray, which is the color we're going for. And I'm going to mix this all the way until it's almost mixed together. I kind of like when I'm making natural textures to kind of leave things, it's sort of unmixed. So we've got this kind of greenish ivory color. Just kind of set that aside for right now. All right, so we're going to take a piece of our taupe fondant, and we're just going to knead it until it's nice and smooth in one color. And just dust our surface lightly with a little bit of powdered sugar. And roll this out until it is long enough to cover our fish. And you don't want this to be too thin, because we want it to be thick enough that it's going to settle into all those little crevices in our rice cereal. So leave it at about a 1/4 inch. And we have our fish, been chilling. Just place that over. Just work. You don't need to put anything on your rice cereal treats to get this fondant to stick. And we're going to be texturing it so much that it doesn't really matter. And just go around and cut almost to the edge. Leave yourself a little bit of a border around, and actually leave a little bit on the end here so that we can attach our fin. So just leave that like that. Just flip this over and just kind of roll the lower edge of your fondant all the way underneath all of the Rice Krispies. Like that. And then just use a smoother to press the fondant kind of into the surface of the rice cereal. Smooth everything out. And again, we can use our piece of parchment to kind of just guide us. Draw the lines and stuff that are in his head. So we've got this line right here. It's like the gill area. That just comes up like that. We actually need to add on his mouth. Just gonna roll out a triangular piece of fondant. Just add that to the bottom. Use my modeling tool to smooth that out. So a line right here on the bottom of his mouth. And then he has some tiny little teeth. So to make his teeth, I'm going to use just actually some pieces of rice. So we're just going to stab some of these little pieces of rice right into the fondant, and it's going to look like little teeth. I'm going to make this little shape right here that goes onto the mouth. It's just like a long kind of teardrop shape. And then smooth out the end. I'm just going to put a couple of little wrinkles right around the mouth, just like it has on the picture. There's a little gill shape right here. Little line here. I'm just basically drawing all the lines that I see on the head area. Looks like he's got some little divots on his nose. Kind of scary looking. Not sure I'd want to eat this fish. I'm going to make a little indentation where his eyeball is going to be. A couple little wrinkles. Okay, now time to do the scales. Alright, so I'm going to take my finger here before I start putting my scales on. Just kind of define the body away from the gill. and just kind of put an impression right down the center, basically where the pink would be, to just sort of make the idea that there's a fish belly. It's not just this flat kind of thing. Just adds another dimension of realism, which you know how I like realism. Like that. And then we're going to take our straw, and you're just going to pinch one end of it so that there's a little bit of a point. Like that. And we are going to start the very arduous task of pressing in scales over this entire body. So I'm going to go down the center and do the bottom and then do the top. And there's no really short way of doing this, you know, but you just got to start. So I'm just going to do one line all the way across. I said I was going to do the bottom first, but I lied, I did the top. See, and this little point just leaves this nice little indentation. And then in between each mark, you do another scale so that they're alternating, right? And it really doesn't take that long once you just start going. So right about now, your hand is probably cramping up like mine, but it's very, very tedious putting in all these little scales, but it definitely, you know, completes that really realistic look. So if you want to make this go faster, I mean, this took me probably about 15 minutes to do all of this, you could just put some scales and just, you know, do like the idea of scales. You don't have to like go and cover every square inch with scales like me. Or if you're obsessive compulsive and you want it to be as realistic as possible, you can put in every single scale like I just did. Because I just can't do anything halfway. So now we have our fish with scales. And now we're going to add some color. Alright, so I'm going to start adding in my colors. And if you look on the rainbow trout, then you'll notice that there are a few different types of colors. There's like this pink stripe down the center, and then there's like this green color at the top that kind of blends into the pink. There's some turquoises and some kind of dark blues in the tail and in the head. So I just went through my luster dusts and picked out what I thought were the best colors. We'll see. I've got a patina green sterling pearl from the Sugar Art. I've got a super blue that's kind of like this pearly super blue from Colorant's Royal Rich Colors. Chocolate, chocolateroxyrich.com, that's what that one's from. Then I have kind of this teal color from CK. And then I have something called Claret Wine from Sugar Flare. So, pretty much got about every single kind of different type of dust that you could possibly get. We're just gonna see how it goes. So let's start with the pink. It's looking very nice. Just putting that nice strip of that right down the center. Just kind of blend that slightly upwards. And this blends really smoothly because of kind of that layer of shortening that we have on top of everything. It just kind of mixes with the shortening and goes on really smoothly. Just kind of go down towards the belly a little bit. And then I'm going to put some green on top. And you can't really see this, but it's basically the same exact thing that I just did, but starting from the top, coming down. And it looks like we've got quite a bit of pink down the center of the cheeks. Blues. Wow, it's pretty. So we got some blues kind of around the eye, down this way. And I'm not cleaning my brush on purpose because I want these colors to kind of mix together, you know? I want it to be like a rainbow. Okay, and before I go any further, I'm going to add in some fins. So I'm just going to make a little indent right on top where I want my fin to be. And then there's another one right here. Just going to push up, just to sort of make a little spot. There's one right down here. And there's right one down here. I guess this fin is just a little bit lower because there's a space in between. And then just squishing down just a small amount just for something to kind of have the fin glue on to. Right? And again, I'm going to use my gray that we made up before and just a little bit of water to glue everything on. Let's move my dust out of the way so I don't accidentally knock them over. Just going to add a little bit of water right in here. And just kind of eyeball the shape of this guy. And I'm going to use my tool to put some lines in it. Carefully pick that up. Insert that there. Just going to use my tool to sort of secure it in there. I feel like that's a little long. Just cut it down a little bit. Looked more like a goldfish. Looks a little bit better. Again, kind of just looking at the shape of the fin here. Putting in our lines. Attach with a little bit of water. So to do the eye, I'm just going to take a small amount of our gray. I'm going to add a touch of yellow. Like seriously, just a tiny, tiny bit. Just so that I can get more of a goldy color. And we're going to put that down into the circle area that we've made. And use the ball tool. Press it in there, and using our small ball tool, just gonna make a little, I should probably should glue that guy in there so it actually stays. A little bit of water. And put a piece of black in the center and push it all down. There, like that. That'll be the eye. We'll do some more to that, but just leave it like that for a sec. Let's finish adding our colors. So it looks like our fins are mostly turquoise. Looks like the tail and this back fin has a touch of the darker blue in it too. Almost creates these stripes. So I'm going to use a thinner brush. Just create some stripes going down. Okay. Now, our fish needs some black polka dots. Some of you'll notice that there's quite a few little scales and stuff that are actually black, and kind of creates this speckled look, which is very specific to the rainbow trout. So we definitely want to include those. So we're going to just grab our black black airbrush color, because it's nice and thin and easy to paint with, and a very fine brush, and start painting on those dots. So it looks like the closer you are to the top of the fish, the more dots there are. So I'm just going to start at the top and just kind of start randomly painting. Now this is beading up just a tiny bit because of the shortening on top of the fish. Just try and work around that. Just keep painting until it sticks. Looks like the fins have some lines in them too. It's like these little dots right here inside the fins. So I'm actually going to define the fins as well with some dots by painting some lines. All right, so when you feel like you've got enough freckles, go ahead and set your fishy aside. And then for his eye, I'm actually just going to dab in just one little drop. Whoa. For his eye, I'm just going to drip in just a little bit of corn syrup. And that's just going to give him a nice glossy looking eyeball.